Thank you very much. And good afternoon, everyone. I hope the coffee is beginning to kick in. I'm going to be speaking a little bit, very much from a UK perspective, about some work that we've just done, a review of the evidence of what the business benefits of flexible working, of family-friendly working are. Before we get on to that, I just had two reflections, actually, on the discussion this morning that I wanted to share, which I thought was a really interesting discussion. The first point was about this term work-life balance, and if it's a satisfactory term. Now, it feels slightly heretical at a conference which is about work-life balance to say that I really can't stand the term work-life balance, but I can't for a couple of reasons. One is it makes it sound as if work is something that isn't part of life. And not only does it make it sound as if work is something that isn't part of life, it also makes it sound as if work is always something horrible. Work is something that you have to do to get out of the way, and then you can get back to what you really want to do in your life. And while for many people we know that the experience of work can be quite a drudgery, there are many people who will say how much it gives them fulfillment, how much it gives them enjoyment, how hugely important it is for their self-realization. So I think that is the way that I've started to look at it. And the term that I prefer, although it's not really used very much at all, is life balance. That's what we're talking about now, about having a balanced life where work and what you do as work plays its part. The second observation, actually, just based on this morning's discussion, was how you frame the debate. Now, my organisation's focus, I'll come on to this in a second, my organisation has a focus on families and families with young children, and that's why we are very interested in this debate. But actually, looking at it in the round, it goes much wider than that. We heard this morning about carers. We heard this morning a phrase, actually, that I'm not familiar with. It's not used very much in the UK, about the rush hour of life. And as a father of 2-year-old twins and a 6-year-old, I can identify with that rush hour, actually, rush hour on the fast lane of a motorway. But I actually think, and I'm not going to talk very much about this because I think Alison is going to talk a lot about this in her presentation, that we need to be looking at this through the concept of autonomy, and autonomy for employees. And we know through a lot of evidence and research that by giving people control over how they achieve their tasks, not saying you have to be here from 9 till 5 at a certain point of the week, autonomy over how they can achieve their tasks, it leads to better employee engagement, better for business. I also think it's a way into dealing with some of the gendered issues that we talked about this morning. However, we can maybe save that for the panel. I'm not going to talk any further about that. I'm going to talk about the presentation today. So a few words on the Family and Childcare Trust. There are brochures outside for anybody that wants further information. It's a UK campaigning NGO. We carry out research and we then work to influence key institutions within the UK. We exist to support the well-being of families in the UK. We identify what the pressures are on family life. We have a particular focus on childcare. We have a particular focus on flexible working. Okay, now the background to this piece of work, to this presentation, is we talked a lot this morning about the benefits of flexible working from the point of view of families, from the point of view of individuals. I was very keen to bring together the literature from a UK point of view to look at what the business benefits were. I think the presentations are going to be emailed around afterwards, are they? Zoltan. So, yeah. So I won't go into too much detail on this, but there were a couple of very striking things for me. It is clear as you can get through research, which is often contradictory, that there are significant business benefits for flexible working. Enabling employees to balance their work and their family commitments raises morale, increases job satisfaction, employee engagement. What are the results of this? We have found higher productivity, better customer service, larger pool of job applicants, and it also can support the retention of staff who are experienced and also expensive to train. And a number of different findings here. So we heard some research which showed this morning. Top priority for employees: flexible working practices. Employees, when they're offered a list of options at work, 80% chose flexible working practices compared to 56% choosing a 3% pay increase. The absence of that dreadful term work-life balance is resented by employees, and we have in a piece of work done by Bright Horizons and Working Families, 34% of parents felt resentful to their employer about work-life balance. And part-time and full-time employees working flexibly are more likely to report good or very good relations in the workplace than employees who do not work flexibly. That was a Department for Business survey in the UK. Employers with experience of flexible working report favourably on its benefits. Again, I won't dwell too much on this because I think you're going to hear more from about specific employers later. But flexibility improves business outcomes, and Lloyds Bank has talked about introducing more flexible working patterns to meet customer requirements. Now, there are issues around this. If we have a 24-hour society, having a 24-hour workforce to match it, there are very serious issues. They came up this morning. But it is another way into this debate on flexibility. There are savings on premises costs, and also the key criterion for businesses, it improves the bottom line. The law firm Eversheds reports increased productivity, more chargeable hours. BP found that job sharing saw productivity gains, savings in recruitment and training costs. Again, here's a survey of senior managers in the UK. Very large levels of agreement that flexible working enhances staff well-being, encourages women to return to work following maternity leave, easier to retain staff, encourages greater commitment and motivation among staff, allows the matching of the workforce to operational needs, and enables customer needs to be better met through extended working hours. So a huge range of benefits there, both in terms of employee relations and in terms of customer service. Recent research, 2014, from Oxford Economics suggests that the average cost of replacing a member of staff is $25,000 to $30,000 a year. Flexible working attracts potential recruits and helps to retain them. 40% of employees for the Department for Business survey in 2012 said that availability of flexible working arrangements was important when deciding to work for an employer. And flexible working also reduces absence. So, I don't think you've got all of the information on that screen, but you will get it in the slide. Why is it not more prevalent? And what's very interesting about this slide is that there is a marked difference between having the policy in place and it being implemented within the company in question. And there are two different surveys here, and the findings are very clear. So if you take the top finding from the 2012 Work-Life Balance Employee Survey, 55% of employees were able to work part-time, actually working part-time, 22%. Able to reduce hours temporarily, 40%, actually doing it, 4%. And so on. A marked difference between having the policy in place and the policy actually being in practice. We see, again, in the UK, that well-educated people in well-educated jobs have more chance of working flexibly than less well-educated colleagues in less well-paid roles. And I think there's something there about negotiating power. Flexible working most commonly reported by women, those with higher qualifications, people in managerial professional occupations, public sector employees, and those whose pay and conditions were agreed by a union. More likely to be available in public administration and service industries, less likely in manufacturing. And it's more common when you've got a relatively equal gender split or where the employees are mainly women. This I found quite an interesting finding. Line managers are seen to be more of a barrier in 44% of organisations with 250 plus employees than in smaller organisations. So, in some senses you might expect the larger companies to have its processes in place to be able to deal with some of the cover issues around flexible working, but we found that the research suggests that in general the smaller the organisation, the less likely they were to identify barriers to flexible working. Again, as I stress, this is UK specific. So what's happening in the UK? So here's the one European survey that we cite in this report. UK managers are seen to be the least family friendly in Europe. Whether that's true or not, I'd be interested to hear from your perspective here. The Institute of Leadership and Management describes a visible undercurrent of negativity and resentment, and a third of managers had heard colleagues make derogatory remarks about flexible working. And I think this goes back to Agnes's point earlier about it being in the DNA of the company and everybody having stories about people who work flexibly, as we heard this morning, and being treated in a way that didn't help their career later on. The UK Chartered Institute for Personnel Development has found that the main barriers are operational pressures and meeting customer service requirements. So the key finding, I think, from this research that we found is that while family-friendly policies are nominally made available, take-up is low due to attitudes and due to skills and training deficits at management level. So how do we overcome these barriers? We need leadership. We need leadership from government, and we need leadership from business to diffuse fears in a risk-averse culture, and we need to promote a culture of trust. I'm very interested in an intellectual trend where some business leaders have called for flexibility to be renamed workforce agility and repositioned as a way of companies of meeting their strategic business goals. We need to build support platforms to engage businesses and to develop the skills and confidence of managers. And one small piece of promotion for my organisation at the end, we also need to celebrate and promote case studies of good practice in family-friendly working. We heard this morning that Vestelito has a programme with companies. We also have our own programme in the UK, the Family and Childcare Trust Family Friendly Programme, where we work with organisations to A, to recognise what they're doing, and B, to take them to the next level. Again, more information about that outside. So that's it. It's very much a canter through quite a lot of work and quite a lot of findings, and happy to talk to you about that on the panel later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anand. Just to clarify, we are going to make your slides available on our website, and all the slides are going to be available also on our website and also on the website of Vestelito. But the paper you produced is also on the website of Family and Childcare Trust, right?
Okay. I think so.
Yeah, I think, okay. So we might make a link to your paper. Well, thank you very much. If you have any questions, we might be able to take one or two. Went to a New York conference, and I liked very much a term. One of the chairs said, I'm going to be the marshal of time. So I will be also trying to serve this role. So if you have any questions to Anand, please raise your hands. If not, we have already 2 questions on our message wall. No questions? Then Anand. Someone is asking, any alternatives? You are challenging the term work-life balance. You don't like it?
Yeah, I like the term life balance, actually, or balanced life. I think we need to separate, we need to move away from this idea that work is something separate from the whole of our lives, when it's one of the 2 or 3 main things that we look for. Can you hear me now?
Oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Sorry.
I wonder why people were waving at me. I didn't know if it's because they disagreed violently with what I was
Finally,
saying.
they are waving.
Actually, they couldn't hear me, so now you can disagree with me. I think I kind of mentioned in passing there that I don't think the term and the concept, it's more than a term, isn't it? The concept work-life balance is helpful. It makes it sound as if work is something other than what we do, and it's something that we try and get away from as quickly as possible. And actually, say for many people, their lives are about their work, their family, their friends, and it's actually really important.
Okay, thank you. You have a question, Barbara, please. Barbara, the microphone.
Themselves are very much in favor of flexibility, and I think that it does have the real potential to lead to a much happier workforce. The question is, it's curious why you think you have to change the name, because I think the question is what's happening in this power relation between the employer making a claim and the line manager or employer granting it, whether that it's that difference in power relation and the difference to make a claim that is suitable for both rather than suitable for promoting more efficient business practices or increasing productivity. I think that's the problem, not the name. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not just, it's not the stories. I think there's something inherent in that relation that makes flexible work hard to really operationalize, so it really maximizes the employer's ability to use it in a way that best suits a situation.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a question of narratives of people being disgruntled. I think it's something very inherent in that relationship and in the kind of pressures put on online managers or HR managers to report to those above as well as please those below. I think that's kind of what the problem is about finding a solution to flexible work that is kind of optimal and allows for well-being and quality of life in the best situations. So I think that's part of the issue that I think employers might engage with in terms of their relations. And there were a lot of focus groups that discussed these things in our book, and I think it was interesting what came out because they had a totally different perception of what the employees were imagining in terms of what they could ask for and what flexible work would lead to. So I think a more kind of open dialogue could maybe make flexible work something that could be operationalized in a new way. So that's just
I agree with that. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm afraid we have to move on to the next presentation.